All right, good evening and welcome to Sunday Evening Coffee. I am Brian, and sitting right across the table from me is my beautiful wife, Crystal. Say hello, babe.
Hey, guys.
And tonight we are excited to have Jack and Sheila Harper with us. Say hey, guys.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
And we actually have a studio audience today. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can't see them, but we have
kind
Chris.
of hidden.
Yeah, so we have Chris and Sonia, which they're on Sheila's team on SaveOne, and then we have Jason and Jennifer, of course, who are always here back in the back. So you can't see them either, but they're here. And they didn't wear their camera outfits. Jason's wearing a wife beater and his shorts, and so you don't want to see him on camera anyway. But so thank you guys for coming. You know, it's funny. Crystal and I were talking. Yeah, absolutely. Crystal and I were talking this week. We've been in the same circles for years, but we've never sat down and had a cup of coffee or talked. And so it's always interesting the way that God kind of lays things out. You know, Jason and Jennifer have been friends of ours for years, and if you go back and listen to the second episode, you can hear their story, and Jack and Sheila are involved in their story because they were their Sunday school teachers when Jason and Jennifer went through the stuff that they went through. So
When Jennifer fasted.
That's right.
So
Jack was fasting with her. So it's a small world, and Jack and Sheila are also great friends with Robbie and Vanessa. You guys have heard us talk about before too. So we're just all intertwined, and more than that, we're intertwined in the family of God. So we're excited about you guys being here, and we're excited to hear your story. So Jack and Sheila pastor Crossroads Church down in Antioch.
Yep.
How can they find you guys online if they want to find you?
CrossroadsAntioch.org.
That's easy enough.
Yep. And then the street address is 540 Collins Park Drive in
Awesome.
Antioch, right there on the freeway.
So if you're down that way, definitely go
Yes,
check them out
please.
and see what they're doing.
When are your
they-
service times on Sunday? What do you
Sunday
have?
mornings at 10 and then Wednesday night at 6.
Perfect. And you guys are in a new building, right?
Yes.
Just moved in. You've got a big grand opening coming up. When is that?
November 1st, 2nd, 3rd for sure, maybe the 4th. We're still working
Awesome.
on that part.
Good. Well, go check that out. And Sheila is the president, executive director. I don't know what your title is, but president of
boss.
SaveOne, which is the boss. That's right. Of SaveOne, and it's an international ministry that deals with women and men. Because I was reading, it's not just about women, because men are affected by abortion. Absolutely. So, just a phenomenal ministry, and she's all over the world speaking and doing lots of great things for the kingdom. So, we'll just dive in. And you guys, tell us how to find out more about SaveOne.
You can go to saveone.org. It's all spelled
Easy enough
out.
again.
SaveOne.
Perfect. So, and I'm sure we'll talk about that too more as we move along in your story. But you guys just kind of jump in. Tell us who you are. Tell us how you ended up together, the heartache, and then the redemption of where you're at today.
So we didn't have that glorious, God-centered beginning. We both were running in the world a little bit and a lot.
Yeah.
There's no use hedging that. I was at a bar one night. She doesn't even remember this. She walked by, and I was sitting with a friend of mine, and I looked at her, and I told him, I said, I'm going to marry that woman. But that girl at the time, she's a woman now.
What are you saying?
Oh, don't look this way.
You're 50, baby. But I didn't approach her. I didn't talk to her or anything. So it was, I don't know, maybe a couple of months later, and we were again in the same bar, and I decided that I would dance with her. So I walked over, and as I leaned up to ask her if I could dance with her in her ear, or tell her she was going to dance with me. I think that was usually my MO. I stepped on her foot. So I just turned around. I didn't say anything. And I walked back over, and my buddy was like, "Did she say no?" And I said, "No, I stepped on her foot." I stood there. I was thinking, what a klutz. So I went back. We danced.
You actually said, I've got her eating out of the palm of my hand.
That's what I said. That's exactly what
And
I
he
said.
went back.
I forgot about that. So we ended up dancing, and then the really cool part about that is that she was so overwhelmed by that and alcohol that the next morning I called her, and her friend
My roommate.
Yeah, go
I was
ahead.
like, who is this? I don't know who is. And she said, you danced with him last night. And I said, I gave him my phone number. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was just, he always makes me out to be nice, but I was I couldn't remember because I was just obliterated.
Yeah, and we laugh about the alcohol
Yeah.
thing, but it really began when I was 13. It was a problem with me, and so we kind of dealt. Well, I was dealing with it, trying to keep it covered. A lot of people didn't realize, but I would go. Like I had a set of friends that I would go Monday, Tuesday with out in the bars, and then I had a different set Wednesday, Thursday. So they didn't really know how much I was out, and I was doing all this stuff. So I was having some problems. I got her to go to a UT football game with me. So that was our first official date, and so we're standing cheering for the ball game. And I had been drinking all the way up there, and I lost my balance. And when I turned to keep from falling, I grabbed her. And we went down 6, I think it was 6 rows.
Just
tumbling.
tumbling.
Ended up
Wiped out
just
a whole
a whole
family.
family. We had
It was awful.
he was pretty upset.
Okay, did you have
we
one
were-
that hideous orange? That's the
That
most
beautiful
important.
orange.
Hideous.
We should have known this. With him here tonight.
Okay, so this is over.
We're done.
It was nice to know
Yeah.
you remember.
Yeah.
Oh, why did I wear blue?
Yeah. So she was really upset about that. For some reason, we worked our way back up, and then
awful.
she would not talk to me the rest of the evening.
We got lost from
I actually
our
got
ride.
lost from our
We
ride.
were
She
2
was-
hours from home.
Yeah,
I
it
had
was-
no idea how I was going to get home.
Yeah, it was probably.
horrible.
And again, it was this.
And this was your
issue.
first date, really?
Yeah,
The
first
first
date.
date.
Wow.
So
that I could remember. Unfortunately.
So from that date, for some reason, she wouldn't go out with me. I
can't imagine
It
why.
actually took. She went out with me one time about a year later. We went out and we went to a ball game in Atlanta, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And then
And then we came back and
she
went to
wouldn't. Yeah, she wouldn't go out with me again for another year. So finally, in that second year. I was like determined. I'm going.
So you were pursuing her actively this
Yes.
entire time.
Yeah.
But because I knew. I mean, I actually knew. I don't think I had ever been in love. I don't think I'd ever really given my heart to anybody, and I knew she was supposed to be that person. So, in that second year, we went out on a really tame date. And from that point forward,
Didn't fall down, didn't take anybody out.
no, we took all the theatrics out of it. But from that point forward, I don't think
Yeah, I don't think we were ever apart.
we were
after
ever
that.
apart. We
Yeah.
dated for 6 months and then we got married. But
So
we
the
still
either-
had the
Do either of you guys have a church background at this point in your
She
life?
does.
I mean, did you grow
I
up in
did.
church?
I did, kind of. It was very untraditional, but
Yeah.
I did.
she understood. In fact, while we were dating, she said, God is very important to me. Is God important to you? Well, my mom and dad, we would go maybe once every 3 or 4 weeks. And so really and truly, that was my mindset about church. So I thought, yeah, God is important to me.
Yeah.
And plus, I really liked her, so I didn't want to give the wrong answer.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we got married in August. That was January. We got married in August. And with
And we already had a child.
yeah.
We had gotten pregnant that
Yeah.
fall. And so that's when we got serious and we were like, we got to do something different, you know? But even then I was like, well, I'm not getting married. We're not going to get married just because we're having a kid,
Right.
you know? And so we went through the whole pregnancy together, went to Lamaze. He was at the birth. He cut the cord, you know, and all our family is like, what are they
Waiting.
doing? Are they going to get married? Are they, are they just going to raise this kid together? What are they doing? And it was, I mean, once we had Jared, we were never apart after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I mean, like when we had to work, that
Yeah.
was it.
The week we brought him home, we decided we're getting married.
At the end of May,
Yeah.
you proposed the first week of June, and then we got married first week of August.
Yeah.
So not to derail, but go back just a minute to the abortion. Did your family know that you had the abortion? Did they know?
Not at that point,
Okay.
and he didn't either.
Okay.
He didn't know until a year and a half after we got married.
Yeah.
So it's something you were carrying and trying to deal with on your own.
Yeah.
Would that have affected you if you had known?
No.
Okay.
No. Although I didn't realize it at the time, but I guess by affirming her having the child, I kept giving her or putting condemnation on her, which I didn't realize because I kept saying, "I'm so proud of you. I knew you'd never abort the child."
He would
And
thank me.
and I
like,
didn't.
thank you for not having an abortion, you
Yeah.
know, because
Not
he knows I
knowing.
could
Not
have
knowing,
just
yeah.
not told him, you
Yeah.
know, and
Right.
and so he every time he would thank me, it was like he was just twisting the knife deeper and deeper, and I was sinking more and more into myself, thinking
Right.
I could never tell him. I will never in my life tell him I've had an abortion.
So the drinking, if it wasn't already bad enough in the stories that you're hearing, it continued to progress, and I guess in my drinking and my world, that anybody that's been around an alcoholic, it just stirs the whole. There's no unity there. It causes so many conflicts and so much friction. Well, she's pulling away and kind of dropping back because of the abortion and the stuff she's having to deal with me, and so she's becoming an emotional mess. When I came home in the afternoons, I had no idea what I would come into.
If I was going to be screaming, or if I was going to be drunk and passed out on the couch, or, I mean, he never knew,
Yeah.
and didn't really understand why I was so messed up.
So we had the thought that we would have some counseling done, and we spent a whole bunch of money that we didn't have on a psychiatrist, which was an
Yeah,
absolute mess. Yeah.
that was crazy.
And how far into the marriage is this at this point?
About a
It
year?
was
About a year.
Did you know yet about the abortion when I started seeing her? Did you know yet, or did I? I don't
Well, I
think
guess
so.
it.
Did
No,
you?
I don't think so. No.
It's been a long time.
I know, this is 27
Yeah,
years ago. So
yeah.
It was a little fuzzy around that.
Yeah. But yeah, that didn't do any good at all. I mean, it just pushed me further into myself, because I finally confessed the abortion to her, and she acted like I was nuts because I was having a hard time. And
wow.
so after that day, I thought, I can't talk to her, because I knew my problem stemmed from the
Yeah.
abortion. And that's why I couldn't give myself to him totally. I kept thinking God's going to take my child from me to make me
As a
pay.
punishment, yeah.
I mean, it was like all of these things, and I was really.
And so
just
you're
a mess.
carrying that. I mean, alone.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was a year and a half into the marriage before I finally just couldn't take it anymore, and because we had been honest about everything, we
Yeah.
had told each other everything except for that.
Yeah.
And
So what caused you to tell him?
I just couldn't take it anymore. It was like it was eating me alive inside, knowing that I had that secret from him.
Yeah.
And so finally, a year and a half into it, I decided I would tell him. And I had all these thoughts, like he's going to divorce me, he's going to
Right.
sue me for custody of the kids, he's going to, or we just had Jared at the time.
I think you were pregnant.
Was I pregnant?
About a
With
year and a
Jared?
half.
Oh, no. Was I? I can't remember.
It
I'm
happened.
50.
Listen, this happens every single week to
Oh, yeah.
watch men and women.
Nobody
No, it wasn't 4 years ago. It was
No.
in 2011.
I need to interject here.
Okay.
Our neighbor
that,
is
Matt,
like
every
weed
once in a
eating
while.
for the first time, maybe ever, as we're speaking. I don't know
that's
if that's going
funny.
to come across. It's really loud, but I just think it's funny. They never. It's a new noise, so there you go.
No, it will come out in the edit.
Neighborhood
Neighborhood sounds.
So yeah, about a year and a half into it, I finally told him, and he just loved me through it. It wasn't at all.
Were you shocked?
I was relieved because
He really was.
now
You thought
I
it
could
was the root
understand
of-
why the emotional swings were happening.
Yeah.
I mean, it truly, I would come in one day and she's hysterical crying. One day she's on cloud nine. One day she's drinking like I drink. And I'm like, you got a head start. How'd you do that? You know? So,
That's interesting that you think that it's going to fall apart and you're relieved.
Yeah.
The
yeah,
perspective,
yeah.
the difference.
Well, it was just the enemy trying to make
Yeah.
me keep the secret because I
Absolutely.
was in such turmoil.
He has power then.
as long as
Yeah.
I kept the secret. And so, yeah, he just had this
Control.
stranglehold on me. And so, me thinking that I'm about to lose everything. My family was so important to me, and I thought I'm about to lose it all, but that wasn't at all the case. It was awesome, really. And then he started thinking, well, we've got to get you help. we can get you some help. But neither one of us knew where to look for help. We weren't in church. We weren't, and we certainly couldn't go back to that lady, so we didn't really know where to go for help.
So she has this epiphany moment. Tell about riding down the road and hearing
Oh, yeah. So that was a little while later, wasn't it? Because we kept wondering what to do.
It would have been.
So you know what
It
the
was
problem
90.
is. You
Yeah.
just don't know where to go to get the help that you
This
need.
was 1992.
Was it
Because
92?
that was when I took the
Okay,
class.
so
It was 92.
So it's about 2.5
So we've made
years
it
later.
through 4 years.
Yeah. Do you guys have time for all this?
Yeah, no.
We have time.
So it was 1992. I was driving down the road. We had our second child then. And I heard a commercial on the radio from a local pregnancy center, and they said that they help women. If you're suffering after an abortion, we can help you. We have a class for you. And I remember just like staring at the radio like, they have a class? Like, there's enough of us out there that they have formed a class. That's what I kept thinking, like, because I had
It's
thought
not just
I
you.
was the only one that suffered, because what you hear on TV and from society is that it was a good choice for me.
Yeah.
It's
you
not
know?
a big deal. Just move
That's
right along.
That's right. And so to hear that, I thought there's some hope right there. And so it was before cell phones, so we had to wait. I had to wait till I got home, and then I called and I made an appointment, and I actually ended up standing them up 4 times before I actually showed up. I was so terrified to go, and then I would start telling myself, "That's stupid. How would a class help me?"
Yeah.
A class, really? How's that going to help me? I mean,
Right.
when you think about that, that's just like, how is a class going to help an abortion? But these ladies, I was so thankful for them that they took their time, and all it cost me was the book, and I just showed up every week, and they helped me, and it was incredible. It was like they gave me back my life on a silver platter. And it was all they did was just take me to God's word. That's all it was.
So it was
And
a
He healed me.
Christian-based class that you went to. That's great.
So,
Yeah.
Jack, during that time, could you see the change in her?
I could, but I guess the alcohol thing, and I hate to keep bringing that up, but I mean, it's just reality.
Yeah.
The alcohol thing, plus not being saved, I really wasn't making this
Connect.
Yeah, this connect or this transformation with her. She was actually moving away from some bondage that I myself was dealing with, so I couldn't get away from it, and that was it wasn't frustrating to me. It was just I was happy for her, but then at the same time I'm thinking, there's really no change in the overall thing. She just doesn't have these huge mood swings anymore. So
And thankful to
Praise
God
the
for
Lord.
that. But
So were you still drinking, or did this?
Yes, I was still drinking.
Still drinking.
and that was the other
It
thing.
was like our hobby.
yeah, for real.
Yeah,
The,
but I mean, how many people? That's life. you
Yeah,
know?
she did more than I did. She recognized the source of the healing, but I because I still wasn't saved, I didn't have an understanding of a relationship or what God was doing there. I didn't get it the way she did, and it was about that time that you really started trying to get us to go to church on a regular basis.
Yeah.
We were still in Chattanooga at the time, and I had always been in a Baptist church. The Holy Spirit in the Church of God church that she was in, that absolutely would just put me in a spot, man. I'm just like, oh, I cannot wait to get out of here, because it was so convicting that I didn't realize what conviction was.
Were you sweating? And
Oh,
like,
my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Been there.
And he would
Anything
always-
you
Looking
can do
up
to distract
scriptures that
yourself,
says this, all this stopped years ago. I'm just doing anything because I'm just so out of it. But
we would always look for an excuse to not go to church.
Yeah.
Like we're huge Atlanta Braves fans, and so he would say, "Hey, the Braves are playing today." And in Chattanooga, we were only an hour and a half from
Yeah,
Atlanta.
may as well
so,
drive in.
I spent
going
about
to a game
$20,000
was
to the Braves.
Stay away from
Distracting
church.
yourself
Stay out of
church.
church. That's no
And all he
joke.
had to, I wasn't too committed because all he had to say was the Braves are playing. I would be like, okay, let's pack, let's go.
And I even
I
worked
was
that from
ready.
Nashville some. I mean, it was
you
my
did.
go-to thing. But
Isn't the enemy funny?
yeah. Well, just the weak mind, So we got transferred to Nashville in '94, and in '94, her sister had seen Pastor Maury Davis at Cornerstone give his testimony, and I think it was actually on TBN that he did it.
Yeah, it was.
And she said, "You guys got to go to that church." So she took me. It was where the youth building that they tore down. They were meeting in there. We walked up, and she kept saying, I don't know if you actually knew, if you were being honest with me, but
What?
she kept saying, I don't know what kind of church it is. I don't know what kind of church it is. So
She would never
I
leave
really
a detail
didn't.
out, I'm sure,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
No.
even back then, it didn't even have a sign. The church didn't have a
No,
sign.
no.
And so we had no idea what denomination
Right.
it was or
Yeah.
anything.
Right.
Not that that was even important to us, but my sister had said, you got to go hear this guy, and had told me a little bit about his story.
Yeah. So we walk in the front door, and she turns with this smile, and she said, "This place has it." We hadn't even gotten in the sanctuary; we're in the hall, and I said, "I know, keep going." I had already had that same feeling again.
Yeah.
So we're at Cornerstone on and off every 3 or 4 weeks, which is my my wheelhouse there. I finally figured out how to do this. We would come in right as praise and worship was starting. In the, I don't know if you guys were there then, but you could go up the steps, and there was a loft up
In that
around
old
the
youth
See,
in
that's
the youth
before
building.
us.
Yeah.
It
But
was
I've
a
heard of the
little-
loft
Yeah.
up there.
And it was so tiny, I
Yeah.
had to duck under the
Yeah.
lights.
When
It was-
you got to the lights, you had to scoot your head down. So I would stand right at the edge of the steps, and so we would come up, we would sit there, and then as soon as the service was over, I could go straight down the steps, and there was an exit door right there. So
Avoid
I could go to
people.
church and never talk to anybody, and that was perfect for me. And then we had this couple that started blocking the aisleway.
It's always a couple.
Always a couple.
Always a couple.
Yeah. And they
always
started
wanting us to come to their
Always
Sunday
wanting to be
class.
nice. And it's like, no.
wanting us in the Sunday school class when they were doing Sunday school. So eventually we did that. I don't know. That would have been 95, maybe.
Yeah, 95, 96.
96,
Something
because
like
yeah,
that.
it was somewhere around there. And we in 96 we started a business, Harper Adjusting Company, and so we were doing claims for insurance companies, and I was traveling all the time. And with this traveling, it got to where I would leave on Monday morning, come back on Fridays. Well, my drinking had gotten to a point to where it was just, I mean, some people would look at it and go, oh, that's a lightweight. But for me, I was out of control.
Yeah.
And I had started smoking pot again and started doing all this stuff, So we were out of control. I was. And it wasn't much better when we got home because we were partying on the weekends together and stuff. So September 6, 98, we had kind of gone through this, getting acclimated with a Sunday school class. We're thinking, these people are okay. They're not as weird as we thought they would be. And September 6, 98, I was sitting on the third row back in aisle seat in the gym, and God spoke to me. And when he spoke to me, he said, Jack, if you don't give me everything, I'm going to take everything from you. Well, that scared me to death. First of all, I'd never heard God. I never heard his voice. And I had read the Old Testament. I'd seen what he had done to Pharaoh and the Egyptians, so I didn't want that at my house. So
He's not playing.
Yeah, really.
for real.
Don't send no plague.
Yeah. So I said, Lord, I don't know how. And he said, I'll take you by the hand and lead you home. And I said, all right, Lord, I want to do this. So from that day forward, I have been totally delivered of alcohol. I never had to deal with that again.
Wow.
That's amazing.
It was like an instantaneous deliverance. It was incredible.
Yeah.
And mine, even though I was still drinking a lot, he always makes it sound like I was, at home on my knees praying for him, but I was knocking them back as quickly as he was. But
was good.
for weeks before that, I had started feeling so convicted because I thought, I was looking around at our house and I was like, our whole house is just this shrine to alcohol.
Yeah.
I had corks and it was like everything with our life just revolved around that.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't like this anymore. I'm not enjoying this anymore. But then he would bring it home and I would be like, well, I'll start tomorrow. And so, and then I noticed I was playing games with myself. Like I would think, okay, I won't drink on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but then on Tuesday and Thursday, it'll be okay in the weekend. And then, of course, something would always happen. I would get stressed out and I would think, okay, just forget it. I'll start that tomorrow. I'll start that on Wednesday. And so it was a problem with me too. But the minute he did it, I was like, yes, let's get rid of all of this. We had just set it up
like
as
a
an
relief
idol.
for you when
yes. It was like this idol that we had that I knew God wanted us to get rid of. That was the thing that, and for some people it's different things, but that was the thing for us was alcohol. And so we that day we came home. We had a fully stocked bar. We had all these bottles of wine that we had collected from the year we got married. And we pulled these 2 huge industrial garbage cans into the middle of the kitchen and we poured out there's no telling how many thousands of dollars of alcohol we poured out that day and threw all the bottles, filled both of those things up and threw it all out. It was awesome. It felt great.
Yeah. And there was, I think we struggled a little bit, but not much about, we could keep that bottle of wine because
we paid so much money for it,
right? Or whatever. Yeah. And I just knew that if there was any possibility of that temptation being in the house, it would, that I had that just gave me the opportunity to mess up, and I didn't want that. So we did. We got rid of everything that day.
You know what? Good for you. Good for you for making that decision and that line in the sand that a lot of people aren't willing to make. That they'll get rid of 90% of it, but that 10%, they really won't let it go. So I think that's amazing.
Of whatever that idol is.
Absolutely.
It's different things for different people, but that was it for us.
So we always, when people ask us or talk to us about our marriage, we always have these first 10 years from 88 to 98. And then from 98 to present, it's a totally different, it's a totally different lifestyle. It's a totally different mindset. And really and truly, it's not that we haven't had an argument or two, but those first 10 years were volatile.
Oh, they were awful. I mean, like, throwing stuff, and one night we had been out
easy
and I was driving us home and I slammed on the brakes. You remember that? Slid sideways and I was screaming, get out of the car. I mean, just so ghetto, just we were crazy. But then in 98 it got a lot better. I was about to say something about that time. I can't remember what it was. Keep talking and I'll remember it eventually.
So when, I'm sorry, did you?
Well, I was just going to say, so at this point you've got 2 kids, right?
Yes.
And so they're in the middle of all that. I mean, is that affecting them? Is it obvious that it affects them? What's going on in your home?
We've asked them, like, do you remember when we used to drink all the time? And they say, yeah, we remember that, but it's fuzzy.
Yeah.
How old were they at that time? They were born in 88 and 90.
Yeah, 10 and 8.
10 and 8?
Yeah. They say they remember the alcohol being in the house, but they don't really remember us
being drunk.
in our in our bloom there, I guess. So.
Yeah.
So did you guys at that point? Did you kind of jump off the deep end as far as into church and being involved and really selling out for God at that point?
Yes. And he became a sponge. I remember that it was like God delivered him from alcohol, but then there were so many other things that he had put in his mind and in his heart that he wasn't delivered from. That he had to work purposely to get rid of. And he literally just became this sponge. He would start reading God's word and was just absorbing it at this phenomenal rate. I was amazed at that. But I feel like it was just God helping him make up for all the wasted time that we had.
Well, and to Pastor Davis, he had preached and we had heard taught from the pulpit so often that the church is a place to serve. So when I got saved, I told her, I said, I have no idea what I could do in church, but whoever says will you help in this area? I'll help. It doesn't matter what it is.
Whoever it is.
And the first people that came were the Royal Rangers. And I was like, and
I remember the little, what were the girls called?
The missionettes.
Yes, Cameron
Yeah.
was a missionette. She had the
Yeah.
sash
really?
and the
Yeah.
badges. Mhm.
so
Well, he had to get a uniform and everything. His little Boy Scout uniform.
it was a Royal Ranger.
Oh, sorry.
A Boy Scout for Jesus.
Yeah.
That's right.
So the children are not my gifting.
Yeah.
But I did. We
Mine
we
either.
did that. Yeah. We did that for a couple of years,
Our
and
own.
then they asked us to be care group leaders in a Sunday school class, and so we started helping with these small groups, and then they asked us to teach in 2000, and it was from teaching in 2000 that we started to because of the way the system was at the church. They had us in a small shepherding role, not as the shepherd, but a small shepherding role and taking care of people and watching after them. So we found that was really the gift that God
Yeah.
had given us to love on people and to help them through some of these life issues and things.
I.e. Jennifer and Jason. So.
They're awesome.
Yes,
So
they are.
we started teaching, and then I always tell this, and Sheila thinks this is the funniest thing. When the first week that we taught, we were taking over.
Oh, yeah.
We're
An existing class.
An existing class, and we're this couple that's just loving on people, and I can read scripture
We
and
didn't
they can
have
talk about it.
any teaching experience
No,
whatsoever.
none at all. So the class that we took over was End Times Prophecy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
That's really diving off in the deep right there.
Yeah.
So there's 52 people there that first Sunday morning. I stand up in front of the class and I talk the whole time, but I didn't have a microphone. I stood just like this
He had
the
his
whole
hand
time.
up on his
Yeah, right
chest,
here.
like this, like he
I
was
was
holding up.
scared to death.
No, that's funny.
Oh, gosh.
You're a natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we came back the next week, we had 26. I thought, I've only got to do this 3 more times and it's
We're
over.
done.
You know what? Pruning is good.
Yeah.
Get rid of
That's right.
You walk off and hand Sheila your fake microphone and sit down. I'm done.
Your turn. Here.
I tried to drop the mic and walk away, but it had no effect,
That
So-
is funny.
We but in those 26 people, they got the vision of loving on people and taking care of people. And actually those 26 people, there's Roxana Polk and Judy Baker and who else? I mean, there was just
Oh, who else?
gosh, there was just
I don't know.
some true spiritually mature, loving people that wanted to help other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah,
and so
that's great.
so we started to build from there, and then the
Did you
class.
keep teaching on the end time prophecies?
Oh,
No.
no.
Okay.
I still don't teach on that. The class just took off. I mean, it was there was a lot of people that were hungry for fellowship and love and some small shepherding, but not the shepherding that Pastor does. So we go from 26 to 200, and they say, you know what, we need to.
Oh, wow.
We need to split your class. So we called it multiplying. So we
Yeah,
multiplied the
splitting
class.
sounds
We had
so-
one, now we
so
have
negative.
two.
So
Yeah,
we called it
we just
multiplication.
we didn't want to speak death into it. So,
But that is
Sells-
painful. I
sells
mean, it is a
job.
painful
it was
process.
so
goodness.
terrible.
Man, we wept over
I had
that.
to work
Yeah.
to not be mad at the people who were like
Yeah.
splitting the class, but I knew it was what
Yeah.
was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But
Did you raise up a teacher for
Oh,
the
yeah.
other class?
Yeah. Yeah, we did that, and then it went back to 200 again, and they multiplied again, and then it went to 150, and they said, well, we want to multiply it again. So did it go back to
It was
150?
cool. I don't remember. I don't know.
I think
How
it was
many
4
a day?
times. Yeah.
Was
That's
it 4
great.
times?
Yeah.
It was fun.
It
We
was.
had a
It
lot of
was.
fun.
I mean, God was just doing some really amazing things, and the people there were getting the vision. They became, gosh, one of the trips that Pastor Jeff took to Africa. I think 80% of the people were from our class that were going.
Wow.
So they just really started catching this understanding of serving and missional work and all these things.
great.
So it was really awesome.
And that says
it was-
people are drawn to you too. which
Yeah.
says a lot.
They're drawn to God.
Yeah.
God through you
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, you got to be a willing vessel, though.
Yeah, you do.
You know,
Because there are some people who are godly, but I don't know that they attract people.
and
Well, she just threw that out there right then.
yeah,
I'm just saying. I'm just being honest.
Don't talk about Jennifer that way.
Especially when she's sitting over there
Yeah.
looking at it.
so through all that, I mean, it's funny. Again, not knowing you guys, I can see even that God's hand prepping you to be where you're at today in pastoring.
Yeah.
You know, and watching Him grow you to understand.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got to stretch you here because you're not there, so I've got to stretch you and get you where you can see people come and go and move on and grow them and put them in the right places. So that's awesome to hear you talk about.
One of
It
the
was
things
fun.
that I think happened in 2000 when we started teaching the class is that she and I became, she had her ministry, I had my ministry with the Royal Rangers, and then even when we started with the care groups and watching over one of the care groups for the Sunday school teacher, what happened is we started working together in ministry. And in 2000, as a teacher and her and
I kind of did the administrative
yeah,
stuff.
she did that. I didn't want to say it that way because I didn't want to. But as we worked together, it started bringing us closer and closer together. And I think it was preparation for planting the church
Yeah.
because in the first years of the church, it truly was she and I, and we had to rely on each other and work together.
Everything, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
So when did you guys leave Cornerstone and plant?
2007.
Okay. So we came to church in 2005. So I knew that you guys were
okay.
still there when we were there, but
Okay.
we never
Yeah.
really.
We did the whole
Yeah.
coming in right as worship started.
Yeah.
We left as soon as it was
Oh, you
over.
did?
Yeah.
About
That's
18
funny.
months probably before we,
Yeah.
maybe 2 years.
No, it wasn't that long.
Was it 18 months? A year,
Yeah.
18 months.
Year, 18 months.
And then a couple attacked us and wanted
Yeah.
us to come to their Sunday school class. And here we are.
That's funny.
Yeah.
We went there 14 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's how long we were there. That's really the only real church we've ever known, like for any consistent time.
Yeah.
So how did SaveOne come out of all of this?
Well, I went to an old Christian education pastor that was there, and I told him my whole story, and it was like it was eating me alive inside
Right.
too. After a while, we
That
started
was
there
in
in
99.
'94. Yeah, that was in '99, and I was so nervous, but I was like, I can get through it if I just have to tell him, and that's
Right.
all. So it was just me and him in the office, and I told him I'd had an abortion, and at that time, nobody knew at the church that I
Yeah.
had had one, even though I had taught abortion recovery in Chattanooga for 2 years before we left, from '94
You
to
still hadn't talked
or
about
from
it here.
'92 to '94. Yeah, I thought when we moved up here, I thought, okay, my time in the pro-life movement is over, and I'm going to go to Nashville and make all these new friends, and I've got my life together now, and
Can just kind
you
of,
know, they don't have
start
to
here.
know about
Right.
that, Sheila.
Right.
Right. And so it started eating me alive inside because I would look around, and at that time, Cornerstone had probably about 500 people or so,
No,
five,
it was
seven.
more than that because
You
we were
think?
in the gym by then.
Oh, that's true. That's
So it's
true.
probably 1,200 or so.
Yeah, probably. And so I would look around at those women, and at that time I was only thinking about women, but I would look around at those women, and I knew the statistics were 1 out of every 3 women have had
Right.
an abortion.
Right.
And so I would look at them and think, or God would say to me, you have the keys to unlock that prison, and you're not doing anything about it. And it was just pride holding me back because I didn't
'Cause
want
you didn't wanna
anybody to
share.
know.
Yeah.
It had been okay in the
Yeah.
little confines of the class I had been teaching. I had never been public, and my whole family still didn't know that I had had an abortion. He did.
Oh, wow.
My boys didn't know. My sister, or one of my sisters knew. Just all of that. So anyway, I finally went to him and I told him, and he sat there, cried with me, listened to the whole story. And then as soon as I was through, he hit the button and said, Pastor Maury, will you come in here?
Oh, no.
And I want you to hear
And were
this
you
story.
really surprised that this happened?
Oh, yes, I actually
No.
was. Because if I had thought for a minute that might happen, there's no way I would have gone in there. So
God
then
was
Pastor
going, no,
Maury
it's
comes
just,
in
it's
there.
just this one pastor. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. So then I had to go through the whole story again, and I could feel my heart beating in my chest. And so I had to tell him the whole story. And it was all, I was just offering them the Bible study, and it was a totally different curriculum then. It was like the only abortion recovery curriculum that was out there. And so I kind of said it like, you guys don't want me to teach this study, do you? You know? It's really controversial.
Yeah.
And,
I probably wouldn't be any good at it. Nobody would come.
Exactly.
And, yeah.
And so they both were very excited, and they said, yes, we want you to teach this study. So then I had the turmoil of, okay, people are going to start knowing. I've got to tell people. So I thought, okay, we've got to figure out a time and a way and when I'm going to start. And I, from that time till the next Wednesday night, that might have been on like a Monday. And then that Wednesday night, I was at church. No, I was just sitting at church, and still nobody knew. And so I was sitting there with my friends, Lisa, Wharton, and Vanessa, and, and my old friend Connie, and none of them knew. And so Pastor Mari says,
From the pulpit, I'm sure.
From the pulpit, Sheila, stand up. And so I had to stand up in the gym, and
You're the next contestant.
he said, this lady is going to start an abortion recovery class at the church. And he said, wave to everybody, Sheila.
So there it is.
dying. It was like instantly I was sweating in my face. I thought I was going to pass out, and I was waving. And I could feel Lisa and Vanessa like looking at me, like, "What are you doing?" You know?
Gosh, knowing Pastor,
And
that's
so-
so odd.
And this is why the lesson
out
is
of
you never
character.
tell pastor anything you don't want said from the pulpit.
Oh my gosh, I could have. I get nervous thinking about that, but it was awful, and so I.
But at least it was over then.
Well, it did make me come out
Yeah.
really quickly, and so I told them everything. I went home, and it was probably like that next week. We sat down and told the boys, and it was just like it forced me to do a lot of things that I would not have done and struggled with for weeks, and so it really was a help actually.
sort of like
but-
ripping the Band-Aid off.
Oh yeah,
Just get it over with.
with the scab and the everything,
All
You have to
the
have
scar
stitches
tissue and all of it.
So then we started the first class there at Cornerstone, and 10 women showed up on the very first night, and that was exciting. And then it just kind of developed from there. I mean, it was like God just started putting the pieces together, and it was awesome, really awesome.
Well, and I think the church in general does such a disservice because any sexual sin or any sin that society sees as a bad thing, the church tends to not want to talk about it. But the church
And it's the place
and
we
us
should
as the
be
church,
talking about
but we're all like, I don't want to
let's
talk
just
about
ignore
pornography.
it
I don't
and
want to
maybe
talk
it won't.
about
yeah,
We
exactly.
can just pretend like it's not there.
And so I think it's so important, and I mean, you guys are a testament to it. But I mean, how many women now have? Do you have any idea how many women the ministries
gosh.
reach?
I have no idea.
We know
We multiply ourselves by starting new chapters.
Sure.
So we have chapters all around the world, and we have coordinators that keep up with each one of those chapters. And so we hold them very loosely because we want them to adopt the chapter under
Absolutely.
that pastor's vision or under that pregnancy center's vision, and so they don't have to report to us how many people come through or anything like that. So we have no idea, but at this point we have 165 chapters in 16 different countries. And they're not on camera, but Sonia and Chris Horswell have done an incredible job running SaveOne Europe.
That's awesome.
It's like she and I beat with the same heart for abortion recovery, and it's been incredible to see God just multiply this thing.
Yeah.
Because if I had known this when I had to go in and talk to that pastor, that I would be going all over the world and telling people about my abortion, it would have been a totally different story.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's, I feel like so often we shortchange what God wants to do with our life
Oh,
by,
absolutely.
stepping out and speaking up when we feel like we're supposed to. What if you hadn't gone to that meeting, or what if you hadn't had the courage to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, really and truly, the
Yeah.
implications are huge, and I think that we don't always. We don't have the long-term vision that God has, so sometimes we shortchange what we're doing.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah,
definitely.
And what he just requires of us is our yes.
Yeah.
And he
Obedience.
wants our yes right now, and then he can do so much with
Right.
that. He's already seen ahead. He's already made provision. If we'll just give him our yes.
That first step,
Yeah.
the scary off the ledge.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I talked about Jeff and Lisa Gregory. Their episode comes out tonight, so it's live out there tonight. But there's a book, Claire DeGraff, I think is the guy's name that wrote the book, but it's called the 10-second rule. And he goes through this whole, I mean, it's an amazing book, but he talks about you basically have 10 seconds to respond to the Holy Spirit.
Oh, wow.
You know, that the Holy Spirit prompts you, and you have 10 seconds to either say, yes, Lord, I'll do that, or that's not really God telling me that. And you have that time to do that. And I think how many times, for me personally, have been 10 seconds have I squelched the Spirit and not said, yes, Lord. And I feel like I know that I'll stand accountable for that. If there's somebody that doesn't make it because I didn't say yes when I was supposed to. And so looking back now over your ministry and what you guys have done, I mean, your yes now has produced thousands and thousands of changed lives. So I mean, it's phenomenal.
And we're not special people. I mean, anybody who says yes, he can do that.
That's exactly
through.
right.
I mean, that's all he needs.
Look at the disciples.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it's been fun. And in our marriage, it's been stressful at times, especially being apart, traveling apart, or you know, when I've got all this to do and then I come home and I've been the boss all week and then I start bossing him around and he's like, hey, you're not at SaveOne anymore. You know, so
I'm the king of this castle.
Exactly. So it's like I get put
You're
back
back
in
at
my
VP
place.
level. You're not at the president level
Yeah,
now.
like I remember. Okay. But it's been an incredible journey because he hasn't ever like made me like, okay, you need to not shine so bright, you know, you need to sit down. He's always been behind me like,
Absolutely.
Go, do this, do that. And when I've been like, oh, you know, with him saying, oh, I want to start these chapters, I want to go to this state, I got to go to this country, it's like he helps me figure out how we're going to make that happen. And so that's
Which is what it should be.
Oh, it's been awesome.
Yeah.
And we've ran into so many couples that when the woman starts like, you know, becoming this powerhouse, the man's like, what are you doing? You need to sit back down and you go back home. And it hadn't been like that. But I think it's important for the woman as well to remember, like when you come home, your
role
place, like
changes.
he still is the leader of the home.
Yeah.
And you have to get in line and follow. That helps. And that's hard sometimes for me, but it works.
It's hard for all of us, even who don't travel and get to boss a lot of other people. It's hard. So it's hard for me every day.
I think God's
One of my
speaking to you because
challenges.
Jeff and Lisa were talking about
You know
submission
what?
too. So I'm just saying.
Wow.
We have a theme
Not
going.
submissive by nature at all.
No.
So it's I'm
And
not like
and
Jennifer.
Submission was a huge thing to learn. Like it's like
And what's
society.
submission?
Well, society tells a woman that submission is like this bondage,
Yeah.
and
It's
you're
like this
just a
negative
doormat,
connotation,
and,
yes.
And
I'm woman, hear me
cultural-
roar,
Yes,
yes.
And cultural, we're not supposed to submit. That's a dirty word.
No.
But living according to God's principles, it's always countercultural.
Yeah.
But it is so incredible. I did not experience freedom, and we didn't get along nearly as well until I learned submission is freedom. It's not bondage. And it's
is
like
freedom.
the enemy wants you to think that it's freedom. But thinking that I can release everything, like I don't have to control everything, I don't have to be involved in everything, I was able to release it and thank the Lord that I'm not the man and I have to, all the responsibility is not on me, because I kept trying to take all of that responsibility. And it was a
Amen,
load off
sister.
my- Yes, it's a hard thing to learn.
It is. I
But
have
it
good
is-
days and bad days. It's a process.
Well, she
We all do.
speaks sometimes outside of SaveOne. She has some speaking engagements. And one of the things that I love that she says is that we were lied to, talking about the women and the submission
Absolutely.
issue.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a neat way to get people's attention about the true issue is that it really is a godly principle, and godly principles always bring blessing. So,
Well,
right
and people
culture
always
doesn't embrace it.
confuse submission. Submission is not the caveman dragging the woman around by the hair.
Exactly.
Submission is you're submitted to Christ, and because of that submission, she can submit to you. And it's a different kind of, people just don't get that. If you're outside of the church and you don't really get it, that submission looks like the caveman dragging the woman around by the hair,
Right.
you know?
Exactly. That's what society wants you to believe.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
and we
Exactly.
got off, and I think probably part of it with us is we got off on this thing when we got married. We decided that everything was 50-50, everything. And so we created this mess.
We were like
and we
constantly at each other
because we
have
both wanted our 50.
Right.
personalities.
I don't want 49.
No, I want my 50. Yeah.
Maybe 55,
Yeah.
but not 49.
Well, she wanted her 55. I was willing to stick with what I had committed to.
I agreed to 50.
So we did. We had some really
Yeah.
hard times just because we had established a principle in our life that wasn't a godly principle, and we had to live with the consequences of that.
And it was
for
also,
years.
if he wasn't giving his 50, I would get mad. Like, I'm doing all the work and you're not doing. Instead of thinking, I'm going to get blessed if I do all the work. So just sit there.
Well, we
honey.
didn't have any concept of blessing.
No,
Yeah.
we had no concept.
So
That was the stupidest thing we ever did.
so you guys have been married
No,
27. Just to clarify, that wasn't.
That's for another podcast.
And part 2. So you guys have been married 27 years. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah.
So go back 27 years to when you guys got married, and think about that, and think about today. Did you ever imagine what God would have for you guys? That you'd be traveling the world speaking to
holy
women,
cow.
and you're ministering to people every Sunday in a pulpit.
No.
No, honestly, and we've talked about this, from the worldly standpoint that we were operating in at the time, both of us thought that we would get married, and both of us thought that we wouldn't make it maybe a year or two. But we did something, and I don't even know how God penetrated this mess that I had. But we even though we had that mindset, we decided on the very beginning that we would never use the D word.
Yeah.
That was
And
a bad word in our house.
It was worse than any other
And
word
it
you could.
became like if somebody came over and said the D word, we were like,
Whoa.
like they
Yeah.
could say the F word, and we weren't like so taken back as the D word,
Yeah.
because we had ingrained it in each other that was never going to be an option.
You didn't let it become part of your thought
And
No.
to
process.
think
No.
back on that, how we were at that time, it was nothing but God.
Yeah.
Because
It was.
we would not have had that thought.
No. So we live by that. We put a principle in that we didn't even understand, and we started living by it. One of the things that we've noticed, though, is when we have an opportunity to sit down and talk with a couple that's struggling or whatever, we always bring that up, and we always talk to them. Under the worst moments that couples have, we always tell them that there's hope. But if you get your relationship with God right, if you get your relationship with Jesus right, then everything can work out.
Yeah.
And we have seen over and over and over that God restores those hurts, those moments in people's lives that they think they can't be married in another minute. God will always take care of them if they will allow that in
Which
their
again
lives.
is so countercultural, because
Yeah.
the
Yes.
world says they'll never
just-
change.
yeah.
You are who you are. Just let them go. Pack their bags.
You
So
got to
that's-
watch out for yourself.
Absolutely.
Because he's not going to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
so you need to go on your
That's
way.
what the world's missing.
Yeah.
So we
awesome.
we never could have imagined any of this other stuff because it was so foreign to
Yes.
us. Yeah.
Wow.
And it just goes to show, we're all in the same spirit. God is awesome, and we understand His power. But I can guarantee you that there'll be somebody listening that's had an abortion, or that's been an alcoholic, or has some
Yeah.
addiction that doesn't feel like there's hope. That
Or
doesn't
wants to
feel
strangle
like
their spouse.
yeah, or suffocate them with a pillow.
Yeah.
Why are you looking
Either
at me
one.
when you say that? You've had other husbands. But there is hope. There's hope
There's always hope.
for somebody that has a life that seems like it has no way out, and God will take you to places that you can't even imagine. We put God in a box and we think we're never going to be any more than we are today. This is where we're at today. We're at the bottom of the barrel. We're never going to be higher than
Exactly.
that. And God says, "Watch what I'll do."
Exactly.
And it's
That's
just-
a
it's
thought
amazing.
the enemy puts
It
in
is.
your head.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's finish with this. So amazed at your story, and I'm glad that we've got to spend some time with you guys, and hopefully we'll get to share more cups of coffee moving forward. But if there's somebody out there listening, Sheila, that's had an abortion, what would you say to them if they're just struggling and they're feeling hopeless?
Well, I would probably say that there's always hope, that
Yeah.
that an abortion isn't the end all of your life. There is absolute healing, and I'm a walking testimony, and there's hundreds of thousands of women and men who can say that just turned back to God's word. And like we said earlier, all he needs is your yes. He just needs you to take that little step, like call us or go to SaveOne.org and email one of the staff members. Or, I mean, that's all you need to do is just to take that little step, because his word says when we draw near to him, he draws near to us. But we have to do the first part.
Yep.
We have to draw near to him. So by just reaching out, by just saying, that's an act of faith that God can do something with this.
Yep.
Even though I don't feel like I deserve to be forgiven, even though I feel like I should suffer after an abortion, and we should. But that's the grace of Jesus Christ that covers it.
Yeah.
His death covered that sin on the cross. And so there's absolute healing.
Yep.
And to stay isolated and keep believing those lies is the absolute perfect place for the enemy to have you
That's good.
and stay right where
That's
you are.
really good.
Yeah.
And so from the perspective of holding on to those things that God doesn't want you to hold on to being a drunk and now being a pastor, being willing to go and pour out all your alcohol and throw those bottles away, to give up those things that are most precious to you, to show God that he's more precious than those things. And God honors that and blesses that, and that's why you guys are where you're at today. So,
But we know that the word says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb, which we can't overcome without that, and then the word of our testimony.
Yep.
And that word of our testimony is a powerful thing when we tell somebody else what's happened in our life. You know, really and truly. And I heard a guy talk about this, but I mean, I think it's kind of an expansion of it a little bit. When we speak prophetically, we're hearing the voice of the Lord, and then we're speaking it out. Well, you know, the voice of the Lord's already established in His Word, but when we tell people about what has happened and the victory we have, then we are prophetically speaking what God can do to them, for them at that moment. All they've got to do is receive it. And this morning, and it's not that this is anything cool about me, but the Lord gave me this thought, is that the prayer of faith is always more powerful than the panic of chaos. The prayer of faith to say, Lord, I will receive what it is that you're going to do for me, is always more powerful than the panic of chaos in the alcoholism, or the panic of chaos in that hurt and thinking that your life doesn't matter anymore because of an abortion, because life is precious. So God's a good God, man.
Amen.
He always
That's
takes
right.
care of us.
I have one more question. If somebody wants
Sure.
to support Save One, is there anything they can do? Is there a website?
Yes,
so that
just
can
go
they
to
donate?
SaveOne.org, and there's a little donate button right there.
Awesome.
And we're a 501c3, so everything's tax
Amazing
deductible.
ministry, worth every penny that anybody
Absolutely.
can spare
Thank
to
you.
put towards
Thank
it.
That may
you.
be the best
Definitely.
question of the evening right
That's
there.
there you go. There you go.
Because you got for the hands and feet, you got to get them out there.
And
That's right.
even buying our books, there's a whole thing of books under our resources tab that you can buy that helps us too.
Good.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are people that have had abortions that want to help other women that don't know how to, and a donation is an easy way to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
So-
Buy a book, give it to
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Awesome,
Enjoyed this.
awesome.
Fun.
Yeah.
Thank
Good.
you.
I'm glad you guys were here. Chris, Sonia, glad to have you guys here too. Again, check them out, Crossroads Antioch. Well, Jennifer and Jason are here every week. I'm sorry. Jennifer, Jason, we love y'all.
I'm just so glad they're in the corner over here.
They're like family. I mean, they know where the house key is, so they're here. But check out Crossroads Antioch. Check out Save One. Send us an email, SundayEveningCoffee@gmail.com. And you can also watch on YouTube. So if you're listening to this on iTunes, you can see us. You can see how pretty Crystal and Sheila are, and then you can see me and Jack. So, anyway, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for the comments that we've been getting. Thank you for the support. It's awesome. It's awesome to watch God work. So, have an amazing night, and we'll see you next time on Sunday Evening Coffee.
Thank you, guys.
It's a wrap.